Hello, guys. Welcome to Monitoring and Evaluation Made Simple. I'm your host, Coach Alexander. I'm so glad that you've joined me today because we're going to be looking at what is evaluation. Right now, I want to make this loud and clear to all my fans that in the coming months, this is a topic we're going to do very seriously. We're going to dive deep into the evaluation of projects because I feel this is one of the most important components of M&E. If you're here for the very first time, please do not forget to subscribe to this channel because on a regular basis I post updates. My name is Coach Alexander. I've been doing this for 10 years now, and believe you me, you are in the right hands. So please make sure to subscribe to this channel if you haven't done so. I have these free ebooks, okay? The Learn Logical Framework Analysis Step by Step Guide and the Monitoring and Evaluation Beginner's Guide 2020. Please download these books. They are totally free if you want to just get started with your journey in M&E. There's also the Udemy course. This is my favorite course so far, how to set up a monitoring and evaluation system step by step. So please enroll in this course. It's very cheap. It's only $12. It could be less, and you get the maximum benefit. As usual, this is a long video, but regardless of that, you can still navigate your way into different parts of this video by using the timestamps in the description below. So take full advantage of the timestamps so that you just go to the area of this video which you think is relevant to you. Okay, so now what is evaluation? I like to always talk about evaluation by giving an example. I'm pretty sure that some of you who are watching this are actually engineers who are implementing big multi-million projects. So those projects you're implementing have certain deliverables. Let's say if you are constructing a road, you want that road to be completed within a certain time frame. So now after that road has been completed, you go out and assess whether indeed this is the road that you wanted, whether it has followed the correct specifications. Okay. If you've not achieved your goal, then the question is why. And then you take corrective action. It could be that you need to repair the road, or in your next implementation phase, you need to build something that's better. And that example is I just try to cater for other professions, but usually when it comes to M&E, you usually see this being utilized in these projects you see around us, in your communities, in your countries, such as the socio-economic projects that have to do with poverty reduction or that have to do with women empowerment. So those projects also have a phase when you have to do an evaluation to determine whether what you had planned initially is has actually been achieved. Okay, and that is why we even have in the planning stage, we usually have what are called project plans or program plans or strategic plans, which give us some kind of direction of where we want to go. So just to give you the definition, it says that an evaluation is an in-depth assessment to determine whether a project or program has achieved its goals or not. At the start of the project, it can be done. It could also be done midway or at the end. Now, I want to re-emphasize this point that this evaluation is so important. And in the next slide, I'm going to talk about this. But I also want you to remember that you can actually do it. In most cases, we most people you talk to, they'll tell you that they believe that the evaluation should be done at the end of the project. But actually, the evaluation can be done at the beginning, midway, and at the end. And this is because when you do it at the beginning, you're actually establishing some kind of a baseline. so that when you do now the evaluation at the end of the project, you can be able to determine whether any change has been achieved or not. And you see, I like this concept because it's not just touching on projects. We usually like to look at these we usually like to look at these concepts in an academic sense. But do you know that actually this can be applied in your personal lives? Because let's say, think about it. If you are, if you've embarked on if you've been thinking by yourself that you want to achieve something, okay, in 5 years, all right, you somehow at the end of those five years, you're somehow going to sit down and ask yourself, did I achieve my goals? If I didn't achieve my goals, what went wrong? What can I do better? Okay, where can I get further support to better achieve my targets? So that's why I like M&E so much, because it actually touches even in our personal lives. The question is why. All right, the thing is that it's really simple, guys. We want to succeed. All right, and it's not just a question of just succeeding. I remember, if some of you like watching football, if you've noticed, some of our favorite teams, when they are playing their football, they they are going to, maybe they are probably going to win a game. Maybe if it's, let's say, I'll give you a practical example. If it's Brazil versus Italy, this is just an example. Maybe our expectation is that Brazil should win, the best of Brazil should win Italy by 3-0. Okay. But it just comes out that they've beaten the Italians maybe by 1-0. So now, 1-0 is not enough, okay? Because you have achieved your goals, but it's not just about you achieving your goals. You want to do it the best way you can. You want to do it in style. So brings me to the next point, that it's not just about us trying to understand what has been achieved, but we really want to improve even on our performance. Even if we develop the road that we want, ultimately, we are saying that this road should be better than we expected. And another thing is that we also want to improve accountability. Everybody should be responsible for the success or failure of a project. So when an evaluation is done and I come to you and ask you, why has this project failed? Your response should not, you shouldn't have to blame somebody else for your mistakes. Okay? Because the reason is that at planning stage, when you plan for these projects, you are involved. At least you should be involved in the planning. You should be able to mention that if all things are equal, I should be able to deliver on these aspects of the project. Okay, but of course, there are those things which are outside our control. And I'll give you an example. Let's say if you budgeted for a project, okay, if your project budget was it was initially 1 million dollars, okay, and because of inflation and because of exchange rates, the value of that $1 million uh, goes down in 5 years, then perhaps it could be a challenge that you can explain that because of these challenges, we actually underachieved. But holding yourself accountable means that you should still be responsible for the failure or success of the project. And it shouldn't just be one person. Just because you have the CEO heading the project doesn't mean he or she is to blame. everybody should be responsible from the topmost person down to the bottom. The evaluations are very important because they generate knowledge. Okay, this knowledge is important, especially when it comes to future projects. If you've noticed, many of these projects, you look around, seriously, just look around you. If you look at these projects, nothing has really changed. All these projects have a similar design. And I like it. I like this. I can actually reaffirm what I say because, especially in sub Saharan Africa, if you've noticed, many of these poverty reduction projects are similar. Okay. But what maybe differs is maybe some of the design has been enhanced, and for it to have reached that enhancement stage, it's because knowledge and lessons learned was generated from a previous project. Another important issue with evaluation is they help with decision making, especially the policy makers need these findings in order to come up with um, decisions that could be economically sound for a nation or even for a certain part of the country. Okay, so what do some people think an evaluation is? Some think it's an audit, while others think it's a mechanism for fault finding. Now, I have to touch on these two, and actually, if you've noticed, they are quite similar. I want to tell you, everybody out there, that actually the evaluations are at the heart. They're the most important part of the M&E cycle because this is where you're going to determine what needs to be improved. Okay? Because you see, life is all about continuous improvement and learning. This is where the learning actually takes place. I like to use the example of the BMW, and I know some of you have heard me talk about this example. The BMW, the way it was 20 years ago, is not the way it is today. Today, if you drive a BMW, the latest version, the features that are in that car are completely enhanced. The experience is completely enhanced. You cannot compare it to what you would have been driving 20 years ago. And the reason why that has happened is because the engineers had to learn from their mistakes. So, this is what I have to tell you out there, that making mistakes is part of life. However, the learning comes in when you actually correct on your past mistakes and improve. So when the evaluation is done, people shouldn't be too, what word can I use? Pressured to be perfect, because it's not easy. It's probably not possible to reach that level. So we need to acknowledge that we have certain limitations. And then when an evaluator comes to check on the project, it should be an opportunity to work together to improve on our mistakes. So now, what are the key criteria that is used in an evaluation? The evaluation checks for sustainability. So now this is a very wonderful word because I've been hearing it for the past 10 years actually, or probably even more. Sustainability is really about continuation even without donor support. Okay, so that is my definition coming from a person who worked a lot in the NGO world. But that is my definition. I know some of you might have it, other books may write their own stuff, but my definition is a project running even without donor support. So essentially, the goal is to see interventions being able to continue even with when the people that started them are not around anymore. Effectiveness looks at the actual magnitude of what has been achieved. When we say that we want to see farmers increase their income levels, what we are saying here is, of course, the income levels, yes, they've increased, but by how much? So those are the questions that the effectiveness answers. Then efficiency looks at, were we able to be cost effective in the way we managed our resources? So efficiency looks at you being able to achieve the maximum results and yet with limited resources. Okay, that is what efficiency really is, because you are trying to be economical with the use of money, with the use of personnel, and also with the use of the materials that you are having in place. The evaluation also wants to check on the relevance. Okay, is this project even worth it? And this is a good question. And actually, if you connect this relevance with the other criterias that you've seen, efficiency, effectiveness, you'll see that they're actually interrelated, because a project that is not relevant or that has some irrelevant activities is just exploding the costs. So the relevance, if you find out that there are some irrelevant activities, then it could be that that's why, in terms of efficiency, you are not being efficient because you have irrelevant activities in your project design. Then finally, the impact is another aspect that the evaluation checks. Now, I want to talk about something before we conclude. And also, before I conclude, I want to mention that, as I earlier told you just at the start of this presentation, that the rest of these coming months we'll be talking a lot about evaluation. So please share these slides with your friends or with your family members or classmates or workmates so that we both build each other up in understanding what evaluation really is. So now I wanted to talk about the Sustainable Development Goals. As you are well aware, the UN launched the SDGs some years ago. So now those SDGs, that document, in my view, is actually some kind of strategic plan which needs to be monitored. And as you have seen, they've released some reports. If you go on the internet, you're going to see some reports on the SDGs. Now, what's going to be interesting is that when we reach 2030, this project, or not project, but it's really a program, has to be evaluated. And it will be interesting to know what the findings will be. But also, it's also key for us to remember that we don't even need to wait until 2030 for this evaluation. It can actually happen midway so that we get a realistic sense of whether we are achieving our goals globally. So that was just a by the way and something to think about. So if you have any questions or you would like to write to me on about anything, please feel free to write to me. I've been your host, Coach Alexander. and see you on the other side. Bye.